When BT rootworm corn came out, a lot of people thought, oh, this is awesome. I don't have to use insecticide again, and I'm gonna have no more issues with rootworms. I'm just gonna have great yield.
I don't know if we were saying that, Brandon. We were very excited though when we saw these BT rootworm products on the horizon. We thought, wow, we're gonna have a trait in there. I mean, it's been nice stopping corn borer with BT corn, but imagine stopping rootworm with it. That's going to be fantastic.
Yep, but it's just another tool, and the problem with almost any tool on the farm is if you overuse it, pretty soon you're gonna have to replace it. And that's basically what's ended up happening here with some of the single trait BT rootworm events. They're just not controlling the rootworms anymore very well. And even if they are controlling the rootworms, if the rootworm pressure is so high, keep in mind that the only way these rootworms will die is if they take one or more bites out of those roots until they get a toxic level of the BT inside them. Well, if you have lots of rootworms feeding on there, you could have all kinds of root damage and the rootworms would still die.
Okay, first of all, you used a word there that may scare non-farmers, and if any non-farmers are watching, they're probably thinking toxic levels of BT. What we're talking about here is a protein that's easily digestible by humans and animals. It's just not digestible by a certain insect called corn rootworm.
Well, think about it this way. Steak could be toxic for you and me too if I ate pounds and pounds and pounds of it. This particular protein is not digestible by these insects. So yeah, it's an awesome deal. And then it does actually, in a lot of cases, lower the need for insecticide. But now that we're having these resistance issues, your best methods of control include planting rootworm BTs that have two different traits. You can use some insecticide on your farm in furrow. You also can use insecticide post-emerge to control the adult corn rootworm beetles. And finally, if you can't solve this problem at all, you can always rotate to a different crop.
Well, it's important to understand the life cycle of a corn rootworm if you want to be able to stop it. So corn rootworms, well, they're out there for just a few weeks in late May, early June, depending on where you're at in the country. Maybe they're out there for most of June in your area. Then when they reach the next stage of their life, they'll be adults and they'll actually be beetles, and they'll come up out of the ground. And a lot of times now, if you had a corn rootworm issue out in your field, you can see those beetles many times right around the silks. They like to feed on those nice, juicy, tender corn silks. And if they get out there early enough before pollination, they can chew silks off and you may have a kernel that's missing on your ear. Or if you have lots of corn rootworm beetles feeding on those silks, you may have absolutely no kernels that fill out on your ears.
Well, in the past, you've probably thought about corn rootworms as just an issue in continuous corn. But there have been two main contributing factors to the reason why most corn farmers in the US now have to fight this particular insect. Number one, there have been a lot more corn acres raised. In our area, for example, there are all these ethanol plants that went up over the last 20 years. So the basis was much better than it used to be. And everybody's talking about, well, I can make a lot more money raising corn. Why shouldn't I just raise continuous corn? So when it's 60-70% corn in your area, guess what? You're gonna have a lot more rootworm beetles. The other big thing is, as people have reduced the amount of tillage they're doing, there are more rootworms that survive going into next year or possibly even 2 years down the road.
Here's what we're doing on a lot of these acres. If we've got first year corn, so it's on soybean ground, we may plant a straight Roundup Ready hybrid or a single trait corn rootworm BT hybrid, but in that case, we've got to use a full rate of insecticide. If we're planting a Smart Stacks type multiple trait hybrid, we may use a reduced rate of insecticide, but if we're in corn on corn, we're going to do the maximum program on corn rootworms that we can. We're going to definitely go with a multiple trait product like a Smart Stacks, and we're also going to use a full rate of insecticide.
Yeah, and some people might say, well, why do I need the Smart Stacks then if I'm putting insecticide out? But keep in mind, insecticides on rootworms have always only been 80-90% control. So if I can go 80-90 there, I can go 80-90 on my BT rootworm event. Now I'm going to have 99.9% control of rootworms, and I'm just going to have a lot less feeding on the roots because I had the insecticide out there. That's a win-win kind of deal.
Well, control of corn rootworms is just a little bit complicated. Hopefully, controlling our weed will be much simpler for you. Can you identify this week's weed?